right, everybody. Welcome to Zanos Ball Radio. We are back. We missed last week. I apologize about that. But we got a different setup today. Starting off with the camera. I really just want y'all to see when I'm saying these hot takes or whatever the case may be. I want y'all to see my reaction. I just had to make sure I had the setup all clean. It's not professional, but we are live. It is currently 7:02 in Maryland, where I am right now. Hope you guys are enjoying the NBA season so far. Stay tuned again for some guests. There won't be any guests today, but stay tuned for that down the line. You'll never know who you'll see. So we've got a lot to talk about today. We're going to be talking about 4 reasons the Golden State Warriors dynasty ended a bit prematurely, in my opinion. We're also going to talk about some things that the NBA could take from the NFL as the season is going on right now. And then we're going to predict the 2028 Olympic team for the men's side. I know we're 3 years early, but those conversations they're never too early. All right, so without further ado, I'm not going to waste y'all's time today. I'm going to try to get y'all out of here in under 30 minutes. That's the goal. I always say that. It don't happen. I think today we should be all right. I'll try to limit the yapping. So let's start with this. So again, we're in a interesting period of the sports season where the NBA and NFL overlaps. And even tonight, the NFL plays they have Monday Night Football tonight. And I never like to compare which one is better because I obviously have a background within basketball, so I'm always gonna think that's the superior sport. But I always like to compare the good things and the bad things of some things that the NBA is not doing so great and things that the NFL are doing very well. And I'm sitting here watching these games and I'm like, there are certain things that the NFL just really has that the NBA cannot pick up on. And I've mentioned it before. And there are a few things that I think cannot be changed within the NBA that they can't adapt to what the NFL has. There's certain things you can't change. There are certain things that I feel like the NFL has that the NBA could work on to make sure that this looks better. So I'm not going to keep teasing y'all. I'm going to let you know, there are 3 things that come to mind. The first thing, in the NFL, every game matters in the NFL. And for any listeners who are just joining, we are talking about some things that the NBA can take from the NFL to make the product more watchable and more enjoyable. First thing, every game in the NFL matters. I understand, yes, it's a 17-game season compared to an 82-game season. I completely understand that. The point remains, every game in the NFL, even if it's the last place team versus the first place team, and the game has no serious implications, it might matter because it might affect your lottery spot in the draft, or it might affect whether a coach gets fired, or whatever the case may be. Every game has an implication that might seem small, but it's a lot bigger. Compared to if I pick out game 47 of the NBA season in January, where the Magic are going to play Brooklyn, that game has zero implication on anything that will happen later in the season, unless there is a 1 to 2 game tiebreaker that determines who's going to be at a higher spot in the West or Eastern Conference. Every game matters in the NFL. So what could they do to increase the urgency? Obviously, the answer that everyone's going to give is shorten the season. I don't love that, because I think it takes the integrity of the game away. And I just think I feel like all fans are so accustomed to seeing 82 games. I think changing that would just kind of throw things off with awards and everything. I feel like it's not great. Now, what I think they can do is add a priority to the games that are there. I'm not saying every single game needs to be important like the NFL is. But they tried it with the in-season tournament, which I think I'm not gonna say it was a failure, or to be honest, I'm not gonna say it completely failed, because the NBA has done some things that have completely failed. Most of the time, it's the All-Star games completely failed. The in-season tournament, it had its moments, and I still think it's heading in the right direction of like giving something in the regular season a reason to care besides tuning in April. Because a lot of people that I've even talked to who stopped watching the NBA, it's like, I have no reason to be invested from October to April because I know in the playoffs, these same teams or whatever the case may be, I'm not I'm not going to miss anything in the regular season. I'm not going to miss anything. So what is the point? What is honestly the point at all of doing, like, what is the point? The NBA needs something. Like, again, they're not going to add what we really want in terms of stuff in the All-Star game and one-on-one tournaments, and they're not going to add that. But, again, at this point, I think if they gave an implication of something, like whether it's the in-season tournament or whatever, if the in-season tournament had an implication that mattered in the playoffs, home court advantage throughout the entire playoffs, something like that, it would give that moment a reason to be like, all right, these players are just going to make $500,000 and keep going. That's not a reason to get a fan to really tune into that game and care. It really doesn't, unless you're a diehard fan of your team or you just love basketball. But in this case, I think the issue is the NBA, obviously they're going to have their core people who are going to watch every game. Problem is, casual fans are less interested. And those are the people most of the time that are going to be the majority of your fans that are bringing in your revenue. So that's the first thing. Every game matters in the NFL. The NBA, most games don't matter. The next thing that this is honestly something I thought of pretty recently, and the more I thought about it, I'm like, this is honestly more true now. Maybe back in the day, not so much, but in the NFL, the coaches are superstars. Their schemes and their coaches, the coaches are a brand in the NFL. Where when you have McVay and Shanahan and even Kevin O'Connell at this point, Shane Steichen, whoever you want, Andy Reid, whoever you want to mention, they are a brand in the NFL. When you think of that team, most of the time, unless there's an all-time great quarterback, a Brady or whatever, you think of the coach before you think of any singular player on that team. And I think that adds an interesting element to the NFL. Now, it obviously gets into the NBA being a more player-driven league where coaches matter, but again, they are not the faces of the franchise compared to where the NFL, in most cases, Sean McVay is the face of the Rams. Like, the quarterback obviously plays a big role. But again, Shanahan is the face of the Niners. They have their brand of this. This is what you expect. When you watch a Sean McVay game, he's got toughness and all his players. He knows how to develop quarterbacks. His offense are usually very good. Right? Shanahan, same thing. Very creative play caller. He can uplift medium to above average quarterbacks. Like, there is something you can identify. And in the NBA, now there was obviously the Phils and the Pat Rileys and the Greg Popoviches and obviously Larry Brown. We can go on. And I think that existed more back in the day where it was like a star player, star coach combination. The NFL has that, where the NBA... I mean, Steph and Steve Kerr, again, like, depending on how much you love Steve Kerr, but it's like, there's not really that dynamic anymore in the NBA. Again, Eric Spoelstra's a great coach. He's not much of a personality. Like, I'm not saying NBA coaches need to be these characters and are doing, and because the NFL coaches aren't. But I just noticed that, again, I feel like the NFL markets their coaches more to really hype them up as a global thing. Like, even when I'm seeing, and like, I know the NBA does this, but again, this is part of the reason why the 82 game thing is a lot different, where Ben Johnson will come in the locker room and you'll see him motivating his guys, giving them a game ball, doing whatever the case may be. I get that Eric Spoelstra and these guys can't do that every single game. I get it. Okay. I understand. But again, that's just something that really, like, makes the product a little bit more interesting to me. That was an observation I had. How they can fix this, obviously they have the mic'd up and whatever the case may be. Again, the NBA is a player-driven league. The NFL maybe transitioning to it, not really a players-driven league, if I'll be honest. The last thing that I really picked up on, and I think the NBA should take notes from the NFL about this, And I've talked about this before, and I'm going to talk about it again. In the NFL, divisions actually matter. And divisions/rivalries, they last for a long time. The divisions in the NFL actually have implications to the playoffs, or, again, yeah, like, they have real implications. They actually matter. Again, if you ask an NBA fan who's not a diehard NBA fan, yo, bro, what teams are in the Southeast Division? They will not be able to tell you. If I ask you what teams are in the Northwest Division, you will not be able to tell me, right? Unless you're a diehard NBA fan. And that's the problem. Because, again, there needs to be the lack of rivalries that have not been there in the past few years for the NBA, I think has drawn to the reason that people are detached from the product. Like in the mid 2010s, there were rivalries. It was Steph and LeBron. Like it was, again, KD and Russ and Kyrie and LeBron. Like these things existed, and these things didn't exist solely because of rivalries. Most of the rivalries in the NBA come from playoff series and playing for championships or people leaving, free agency, whatever the case may be. But imagine if the Knicks and the Nets in the same division, by the way, had games that mattered for a potential playoff berth or whatever the case may be. It would add things again. And again, when we're thinking of the location of these teams as well, they play into it. I'm not gonna say every division is located to where all teams are close together, but most of them are. Where it's like, okay, yeah, a Knicks and Sixers rivalry, a Knicks and Celtics rivalry. Again, there are some rivalries that happen, but they're not because of the division. I think if the NBA put more emphasis on making that matter, I think it would add more rivalries. And the NBA would not be relying on Steph and KD when they're 40 years old and can't really market their young stars the way they want to. I think it's a shame that the NBA has not picked up on this, and it's been something that's dated back like for years, and they've never really addressed it. The NFL does it really well. Like, again, the NFL has done it so well to where every division, for the most part in the NFL, or most of them, have an identity. Like the AFC North, that's the tough, running the football, relying on your defense type of division. Or at this point, the NFC West, we know that's the division with all the smart head coaches who have clever offenses and whatever the case may be. The divisions have identities. Again, the AFC East for a while was Brady's division. Like they all had identities. The NBA does not have that, and they need to fix it. I don't know how many times I have to repeat that, but again, I think that will help the NBA in the long term when they're trying to find their next wave of stars to market. It's important. All right, people just tuning in, we just went over a few things the NBA should learn from the NFL. When we come back, I'm gonna be talking Golden State Warriors. Not about their season so far because there ain't much to really talk about. But we're gonna be talking about 4 things that led to Golden State Warriors' demise as a dynasty in the NBA. See you guys in a second. All right, I don't really want to waste too much time on this. I'm going to take a sip of my water because the further I get into this, a lot of things are just going to be things I've experienced and noticed firsthand, and it really upset me. Now, I'm going to say this. Well, I know everyone's going to say, well, the Warriors dynasty didn't fail. They won, 4 championships. It didn't fail. The exact wording that I mentioned might not have been exactly what I'm going to explain here. But I think there were some crucial decisions that caused the Warriors to miss out on certain opportunities to compete for more championships, right? I'm not saying that they did not win enough championships, but there were some certain decisions as someone who was watching the Warriors and watching the decisions that they made that were dumb for a franchise that's considered one of the elite franchises. They made a lot of decisions that made you question, what are they doing? And I think there are 4 of them. Let's start with this. And I think this is the one that a lot of people probably know already and have an idea of. The front office misses in the draft. That's the first thing. And the first one that I'm just never going to forget is James Wiseman. And we took him with the 2nd overall pick. And I'm not even on the side of like, well, they should have took LaMelo instead. I'm not super opposed to the fact that they took James Wiseman. It was the fact that A, he could not fit in to what we did, and at the same time, we cannot help him get adjusted to what we do. It was both sides. And this is kind of preluding a point that I'm going to talk about later. But this whole experiment where, again, in college, James Wiseman did not play that many games. There wasn't that much film on him. But we knew at the time, going into the 2020 season, that the Warriors needed center depth. And they needed someone who can catch lobs from Draymond, someone who could protect the rim, and that's someone who could have just a little bit of juice. In the history of Warrior centers, Andrew Bogut and Festus Ezeli and Zaza Pachulia, if you gave them the ball within 5 feet, they would not know what to do with it, right? And that was the problem, where it's like when you got Draymond out there and he's throwing his lobs and catching it, and like once he gets the double from Steph, he's throwing it up to a big, and that big's got to be able to dunk the ball or make a decision. And none of the centers could do that. And when we saw James Wiseman, it was like, okay, this could be a guy that has some talent offensively, who doesn't have to do too much, but would be our most skilled big man in the Steph, Clay, Draymond era. Easily. And every time he was out there, he looked lost. He looked like he looked like spacey, like he didn't really know where he was at. Every time he got the ball, it was like, what do I do? And it was just a disaster. It was a complete disaster. Defensively, he showed promise, but again, he was just lost. Like he looked like he didn't belong on a basketball court. And everyone's going to be like, well, it's because the Warriors didn't utilize his skill set. That is true. That is true. But again, if anything, the Warriors make big men their job easier because they don't need you to do as much. So it's like, if Wiseman couldn't adjust to being a run and dunk center who could protect the rim, if he couldn't do that, then what makes anyone think that he would be able to do that and have scoring responsibilities and get post touches and whatever the case may be? Newsflash: centers in the Golden State Warriors system do not get post touches. That's just how it works. Is that the right strategy? I don't know. It's not how it happens. Whiffed on that pick completely. Right? Next, we'll talk about the next draft decision, where it's someone who I've been critical of, but it obviously was not as bad as Wiseman. Kuminga and Moody. Again, for where Moody was drafted at 13, I think he's met expectations. I don't think he was a massive failure. At this point, Kuminga, year 5. I've already talked about Kuminga. I'm not going to go in detail about why he's been a fail, but I'm not going to say he's been a complete bust, but he's completely underperformed compared to where we took him in the draft, 7th overall, and his inability to adapt and play winning basketball when it matters. He still looks clueless. Why do all Warriors draft picks, high draft picks, in any sort of high leverage game, they just look like they don't know what to do? Like, is it the pressure of the Warriors being this high octane offense and every decision matters? Is it Draymond that they're scared? Like what is it? Why do Kuminga and Wiseman just look like confused on the court? Like they don't really know what to do. Like, I don't even love Pods, but even Pods doesn't do that. Oh no, I just noticed that. It was, I don't know. That's the first thing. Front office misses. And again, this was something that they have even talked about. them trying to adapt to this 2-timeline plan. And what that is, for people who are not sure what I'm talking about, is the Warriors have admitted they had tried to go on this 2-timeline plan where they were trying to compete for a championship with their core of Steph, Clay, and Dre, and Andre, and whatever, Steve Kerr. And they were trying to develop their young guys to replace them afterwards. And they were trying to do it at the same time. So they were trying to let Steph and Clay and whatever and compete for titles, but also we've got these young guys and we've got to incorporate them. The problem is, when you've got both, not everyone's going to play. And the problem was, in certain situations, we couldn't let Kuminga and Jordan Poole and Moses develop because we were trying to win championships. And those guys, especially early on, proved that they could not play winning basketball. So we weren't able to play them. And obviously, as a young player, you've got the ego, whatever the case may be. You want to play, you want to prove yourself, and those two things clash. And when you got Draymond in the middle, it didn't work. It didn't work. Again, it was very hard, especially when you're drafting in the top 10. That's why I think a lot of our draft picks that did work out were guys who were later in the first round, or again, not really in the lottery, because there wasn't an expectation for them to be this big thing. They could kind of just fit in, and that's just the reality of it. But those two draft picks, the 2-timeline plan didn't work. Didn't work. Because, again, I think Oklahoma City's doing it. And then now that I'm thinking about it, maybe the Warriors are trying to do what OKC did, where they're developing their young guys while they're still competing. But the Warriors failed to do it. That's the first thing. Next thing. The Warriors really failed to find a real center. They've completely disabandoned, or they completely overburdened Draymond, and they really relied on him to be this guy who can defend 1 through 5, obviously, but they expect him to do it every night, and they never really addressed it. They would add guys in who could play situationally, but again, when you need Draymond to play the 5 in the regular season to win you games, again, and you're expecting him to still be the anchor of the defense, the Warriors really never addressed it. Like, who was the perfect center in the Warriors system? Can you, like, I'll be honest, JaVale McGee was probably one of them. He's probably at the top, and that's saying something. Bogut, it was something they never really got right, and they still haven't got it right. The guys are either too old, not athletic enough, or if they're athletic enough, they don't have the IQ, they don't have the passing, they don't have the situational awareness to fit. The Warriors have failed to really ever get center right. Front office decisions, getting center right. The third thing, you're probably wondering why I haven't mentioned this first. Draymond Green. I give Draymond a lot of credit for a lot of things he's done for the franchise. He's also made some stupid-ass decisions that have quite literally cost us championships, and it'd be ignorant for me to not bring these up. Obviously, what he did in Game 7 of the Finals. Obviously, the blow-up with Kevin Durant in 2018 to Clippers. And again, that was something that, even if that didn't directly lead to Kevin Durant leaving, it was part of it. Jordan Poole, where they were basically forced to trade him. A guy who was part of this 2-timeline plan. Didn't get to work. I can go on. Again, I can go on to 2016 where he had the locker room incident against Oklahoma City, and him and Kerr had gone in a verbal altercation. It was a bunch of them. And as much as that sometimes gets the team going, there were some of them where they were very inexcusable. And again, the LeBron one, you essentially cost the Warriors a championship. No one's ever going to come out and say it. Steph will never come out and say it. I think they all deeply believe that if Draymond played, they'd have won that championship. And you were the reason for it because you couldn't control yourself. The last thing, and I think this is one that I've noticed, and I don't think people really point this out unless you've been watching the Warriors for a while. And it's they failed to adapt to what the NBA is. I still think they're rigid. And this is in terms of the motion style offense that they've had with Steve Kerr that started in 2015, where it's to throw the ball to Draymond in the post, post to pass, down screens, cutters. It works. But Steve Kerr has been very against, and he's adapted to it once Warriors fans and people have really got on him about it. But he was very anti pick and roll, and I still think at times he is. Not with Steph, with everyone else. And it's like, if you're not Steph, you're not running pick and roll, and you're gonna have to run these cutter and handoff actions, and this is what we're gonna run, and we're not gonna change it, regardless of what the series might ask for someone to do. Not gonna change it. And I think this is part of the reason why Kuminga and some of these other guys don't love the system, because it really rarely lets anyone but Steph play isolation or pick and roll. And I mean, it limits them. Again, with Wiseman, I think Wiseman is a guy that would benefit from being in pick and roll more often. Just, again, it hasn't. They started the trend, and for a while, again, even when they went small and were switching, whatever, they were kind of the first to do it. Teams have caught up to that now. When they put Draymond at the 5, teams aren't scared anymore. Where it's like, oh, how do we counteract Draymond's defense and him being able to move? No, they can just take another 6'9" guy and put him out there and put him on Draymond. It doesn't put fear in teams anymore. And I still think in a lot of playoff series, Steph was not as good as he should have been, because Steve didn't want to put him in pick and roll, and he wanted to have him run around a million screens, which is helpful at times. But in the playoffs, when you need to get a basket, you need to put the ball in Steph's hands. You need to put it in his hands. They failed to do it. Those are the 4 things. Front office draft misses, failure to really have a center that worked, Draymond's inability to control himself at certain times, and Steve Kerr and the Warriors kind of failing to adapt to certain offenses that have faded out. Last thing we're going to get to, and I definitely didn't stay under 30 minutes. We'll be out of here in under the next 5. We're going to end off 2028 Olympic team predictions. I'll see you guys when I get back. All right, welcome back. We're going to end off with this. The 28 Olympics. I know we are very early. And at this point, in 3 years from now, there are probably going to be some guys that are like, you put him on the list, or somebody that's not even in the league. It's like, damn, how did you forget him? Again, I spent some time really putting this together. And it's more so a list of who I kind of want on the team and how I think the team should be framed more than who actually will make it. Keep that in mind. So this is what we're going to do. It's 12 spots. People who are just joining. Anyone who's just joined, check out the 4 reasons why the Warriors Dynasty did not go as planned towards the latter stages, and some things the NBA could pick up from the NFL. Check that out if you are just tuning in. Now, we got 12 spots. We're going to do guards and forwards. We're not going to do centers. It's positionless basketball. We're not doing centers. We'll do forwards and centers combined. 6 of each. Then I'll name some people that are on the bubble. We'll start first with this. We're going to start with the locks. My locks on the guard side, Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton. I think all 3 of them are locks. Again, Booker and Ant were already on the 2024 team, and they had a valuable role. I think that automatically means you're a lock. Tyrese Halliburton was on the team, didn't have a huge role, but I think Steph won't be there. I think Brunson will probably be too old. What else am I missing? Again, I think Halliburton is certainly a lock to make the team this year. If you made the team in 2024, you're most likely a lock, especially with those guards I named. Now, the next 3 that are going to make it, I've got Cade, I've got Donovan Mitchell, and I've got Tyrese Maxey. Those are the 3 guys I think, again, I think Tyrese Maxey's already made a jump this year. That's where it's like, in 3 years, I don't even want to envision how good he's going to be. Donovan Mitchell will be up there. I think he'll be 31 years old. But I think they're going to need that veteran guard there still. Because I think the rest of these guys will still be, besides Book, who will be close to 30 at that point. The rest of these guys will be under 30. Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton are the 3 locks. And then I've got Cade, Donovan Mitchell, Tyrese Maxey rounding out the final 3 guards. For the bigs, it's a little bit harder. Oh, for the guards as well. Actually, no. We'll save it on the bubble for the end. For the bigs, Chet Holmgren, is a lock for me. Jason Tatum's a lock for me, and Jaylen Brown is a lock for me. Again, Chet, regardless of what you think about him, they need someone to match up with some of these European bigs. And Chet's probably the best you're going to get in terms of an American center. He's probably the best you're going to get. Now, Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they'll be in their early 30s. I still think they'll be together. They'll be probably relatively past their prime, but I don't think you're going to leave JT or Jaylen Brown off this team. The final three are very difficult. Now, no, we can't pick him. Okay. My final three is Paolo Banchero, Evan Mobley. Now, if Evan Mobley does not play for the Bahamas, or if he plays for the Bahamas, then we can forget this. But I'm going to assume that he plays for the USA team. And then I've got Cooper Flag. I don't know if that take is gonna age well. I'll be honest. I don't know. But again, I think they need Mobley because they need more size. They need more length. They don't really need too many traditional centers. Like, I really thought about Jalen Duren. And I still think he is someone that could be on the bubble. I don't think he'll make it. I think Paulo will definitely make it. So forwards and centers: Chet Holmgren, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Paolo Banchero, Cooper Flag, Evan Mobley. That's going to round out the 12. Now on the bubble, for the guards, I actually had Stephon Castle on the bubble, the guards. Because I think every Team USA team has that Derek White type of glue guy, Drew Holiday. And I think Stephon Castle could be the Drew Holiday for this type of team. And they're going to need that. So I think it's interesting. I also had Trey on there. With the guards that are here, I don't think Trey fits. Like, they all need the ball. The rest of these guys at this point are going to be guys who probably won't play much and are essentially glue guys. I don't think Trey fits there. But I did put him on the bubble. Then I put J-Dub on the bubble as well. If I'm going to put Chet there, I'm going to put J-Dub there, I think. Again, I think J-Dub could be one of the more valuable role players for this type of team because I think he could do all the dirty work, play the defense, do the things that a lot of the stars are not going to want to do. And then you always got to add the young guy, right? So my young guy, AJ Debonsa. Now, I'm higher on Darren Peterson. I'll be honest. I'm higher on Darren Peterson. But in terms of the fit on the team, I think they're going to need the athlete. And I think AJ can probably provide more for Team USA, especially defensively and with his energy that Darren might not provide. I think this team has enough scoring. And I think AJ would fit here. So that's going to round it out. My full team, 2028 Olympic team roster, stamp it. Do I have to give a starting lineup? I mean, we can. So let's go Cade at the 1. No, not Cade. Let's go Hallie at the 1. Let's go Book and Ant at the 2 and 3. Then we're going to go Tatum, and then we're going to go Chet. And then the bench is going to be Cade, Donovan Mitchell, Tyrese Maxey, Jaylen Brown, Paolo Banchero, Cooper Flag, and Evan Mobley. That's going to round out my 2028 Team USA team. Let me know what you think. Who are some guys I missed? Obviously, there's some older guys. They're like, well, is AD and Joel going to play? I mean, they could be. I'd prefer some of these younger guys that they have. It's just, I mean, like, I thought about Bam too. But at that point, I think Mobley and even AJ at the 4 will be more advanced at that point than those guys are. That's going to wrap up Daniel's Ball Radio. Thank you guys for listening. I tried to get under 30 minutes. I did not. But thank you guys for listening to this new format. Stay tuned for some updates next week about some potential guests of what we've had in store. Have a great Thanksgiving to whoever's tuning in now and whoever's tuned in for the show. Enjoy some football, and thank you guys for listening. See y'all later. Get out of here.